Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Onions are easy to grow and are a tasty addition to many dishes. Today we're going to plant them. Also, we're going to talk about some common landscape mistakes. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Walter Battle. Walter's a UT County Director in Haywood County, and Joel and Diamond will be joining us later. All right, Walt. So we're going to be talking about onions, right? Planting onions.
Yes, planting onions, and onions is one of my favorite foods. I mean, they can really enhance the flavor of any dish, that you cook.
Okay.
Now, there are some people who, most people plant them from the bulbs, but there are a few people who really like to plant them from seed.
Okay.
And so all you basically do, and let me just kind of show you what a onion seed.
Real small.
Yeah, real
seeds.
small, a little black seed. And to get them started, you may want to, you get your potting soil there, and basically you can just about 1/4 of an inch, that's about that much on my finger there, just plant a seed.
Okay.
Cover it up.
Just good contact there.
Yeah, just good contact there. And I mean, it really, these things that pop out, takes about 14 days for them to germinate. And I'll show you what you're gonna have in about 14 days.
Okay.
Give me just a second here.
Sure.
And I'll show you. So in 14 days, maybe 20 days, depends on, where you have them located, you'll end up with this right here. And you'll have these little, onions.
Okay.
And then from there, if you wait another couple of weeks, watch this.
Aha.
You'll end up with these. And this is when they're ready to go into the ground, into the raised bed here, for planting. And
Okay.
just real simple technique. Look, folks, it's real simple. All you want to do, go down about, from my finger, right there, that's about 1 inch. You just want to go down about 1 inch and close.
Stick them in there, okay.
Yep, and you want to go about 3 inches, between 3 inches there. And there you go. Doesn't take long.
Okay. So
'Cause
what kind of onions are there out there that we need to
Well, you
consider
have
planting?
your yellow onions, you have your red onions, you have your sweet type onions.
Okay.
And then also, I believe people have tried to grow things like leeks, those type of onions. I guess they're onions.
Okay.
But, you begin to see a lot of that. Now, one thing about an onion you need to know, some people will buy those onions that they'll say they're supposed to be the sweet onion.
Okay.
You may not have the soil type for that onion to be sweet. Sulfur plays a big role in how that onion has flavor.
Wow.
And with the pungentness of the onion. So, you may have to kind of watch your soils there.
Okay.
Now, I want to look at one other thing here.
All right.
Now, this is the way a lot of people,
Yeah. The bulbs.
yeah, and they use the bulbs. Same concept. Go down about 1 inch, and I just do them like this.
So while you're doing that, well, I mean, how do we need to prepare the soil for planting onions?
Well, like any other crop,
Okay.
it really wants well-drained soil.
Well drained.
You want to have a good sunlight. You want a good 8 hours of sunlight
Okay.
with them. Let me get this one other one in here. And also, they want the pH to be about 6.5.
Okay.
That's kind of what an onion likes. Onions also like fertilization, complete fertilizer. So like a 10-10-10, a triple 13,
Okay.
something like that will work well for an onion.
Okay. And when you're planting them, I mean, does it matter how far apart they have to be planted, or?
Now, this here is, of course, is a raised bed right here. Now, if I was planting a field, probably would be 36-inch rows.
Okay.
But here in these raised beds that are just wonderful, you just want to go like right here. I'm probably going about 6 inches there. away from the other onions. That'll work perfect in a raised bed. Now over time, these onions will get bigger, and if you, in about, I would say these in about 30 days will be ready if you want to have some green onions.
30 days, okay.
The bunch onions that we chop up and put in our salad and also put in our turnip greens or whatever that we're eating. But if you want to keep them on a little while longer, let them mature out for another, I'll say 90 days, 100 days.
Okay.
And then when the tops begin to, fall over.
So that's when you know it's ready. Because I
That's
was
when
going to
they're
ask you, how
ready.
do you know
Yes,
they're ready?
that's when
Okay.
they're ready to be pulled for what we call storage onions or dry onions. There was one other point. How do we dry our onions out?
yeah.
Because that's always, and the way I do it, if you can get your hands on a bread rack, works perfect. Set your bread racks up where air can come up on the bottom.
Okay.
Lay
Makes
those
sense.
onions out on top of them and let that air circulate in there and they'll just dry out. Now you don't want to get them wet, so don't wash them before you,
Gotcha.
dry them out. And then some people you may have seen, maybe in the older days, people used to use pantyhose or stockings
yeah.
to dry. They would hang them
Hang 'em
up
up,
in, in a closet or something or area, a storage room or whatever, and that's how they would let them dry out. But really good flavor.
Okay.
Now, as for insects, every now and then you will hear I'll have someone come in the extension office and they'll talk about, the onion maggot.
Okay.
But if you rotate the crop, you'll be okay. So like take this raised bed for instance. So next year I would need to raise my onions over there
this way.
somewhere.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
need to put
In the
those
same place.
onions right back in the same spot.
Good, good.
And that would help alleviate that problem.
Good.
And aphids can be a little bit of a problem with them, but you can just
aphids
wash
attack
them off,
everything.
whatever.
Yeah, just wash
aphids
those off.
Yes.
Yeah, to get on
yes.
everything.
And that's a little bit more about them right there as far as that goes.
So no major disease problem or anything like that?
Not
either, right?
really, not that I know of or that I have experience as an extension agent here in this area. No, I have not really had any issues. Again, there's just all different flavors, all different types. They just make any meal great.
What about short day, long day bulbs for your onions?
Oh, great question, Chris, because, it depends on where you live.
Okay.
Now, here in our area, which is the Memphis area, we want what they call a short day bulb. That's what we want to grow here, short day onions.
Okay.
That means onions that's going to receive 10 to 12 hours of daylight. Okay. Now, when you go north, okay, you want an onion that can be anywhere from 14 to 16 hours of daylight, and they're called long day onions or long day bulbs, or whichever way you want to call them. So that's what you want. That's the difference between the two. Now the issue, if you are up north and you tend to plant one that is a short day, you'll end up getting a very small onion because it's going to want to form that bulb, so you won't be happy with your product.
Right.
So be very, very careful when you order from your seed catalog which ones you're getting.
Right.
Be very, very careful.
Watch your label because it'll probably tell you on that as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, well, we'll see, how it does, and we'll definitely let you know, right?
Oh, yes. Well, I'm going to stay here and finish this out,
Okay.
okay?
All right. Definitely appreciate the demonstration. Let's talk about one of my favorite weeds. It's hairy bittercress. Forms a rosette of leaves first on the soil surface, and up comes the rest of the plant. This plant actually produces a pod. Inside of the pod are seeds, and if you brush up against the pods, guess what happens? It actually explodes, and it throws seeds to about 10 feet, y'all. This is pretty cool, don't you think? Hairy bittercress. All right, Joellen, let's talk about avoiding those common landscape mistakes. And I'm pretty sure I have a lot of mistakes in my landscape.
And I'm sure that I have done them over the years too, which is how, you're supposed to learn from your mistakes.
That's right, and you're gonna teach us.
And we're going to talk about some of them.
Okay.
Planting trees, shrubs, annuals, perennials, too deep.
I've been there, okay.
This is a very common mistake that a lot of people make. What they don't understand is in a container, the soil level in the container should be the same soil level that is there when they plant it. So you really don't put dirt up over the top of the soil that is existing in the container. So you want to plant up to it, because then when you mulch, you'll be mulching over the top of it, so it will get covered.
Okay.
But you really don't want to bury the top of the root balls or any of the containers that you're planting. Now, bald and burlap trees are probably the worst, because sometimes you cannot tell where the actual soil level is on those, because by the process of them making the root ball, they will pull up the soil sometimes over the top, and of course it's covered and you can't always see it. So just be aware of that. That's why I tend to plant them a little bit high. So when I open it up, the root ball, I can see where the soil level is, and most likely it is either equal or slightly above the existing soil level, and that's perfect.
Good. Okay.
So that's that one.
All
Then,
right,
of course, correct watering.
Oh,
Oh
boy.
my goodness.
Right.
We get a lot of questions we get here are because of somebody overwatering or underwatering, a particular plant. So you need to research your plants and find out what kind of environment that they like. And it's going to be different for every season of the year. There's sunlight's different, the temperature is different, and when you plant a plant, it's different. So it depends on how long ago you planted that plant. If you haven't planted it very long, it doesn't have roots in the existing soil, so it may need to be watered a little bit more than something that is already established.
Right.
So you just got to kind of have to pay attention, and the best way I can tell is to research what kind of plants you're planting, put them in the right place, and then monitor with your moisture meter, which is your hand.
Is this?
Yes. I mean, you stick your finger in the ground.
Right.
Don't just look at it and say, oh, it looks like it needs water. Put your hand in the ground. Is the soil moist?
Okay.
Does it really need to be watered? So that's how you do correct watering.
And I'll tell you something else with that too. I usually tell people to group plants by water requirements.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't want to put a drought tolerant plant, in the same position where you have, a plant that needs a lot of water.
That's correct.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I agree. That's part of the research.
Right. It's part of the research. Right.
And then the second one is the right plant in the right place, which is exactly what you were just saying.
Yeah.
If you've got the right plants, you research them, you know the kind of water requirements that they need, the environment that they need, the sun, the shade, whatever it is, then you can plant them in the correct place. The other thing is, this is mature size of the tree. The tree, the shrub, whatever you're planting, find out what the mature size of it is so that you don't crowd it. Because then if it's crowded, you're not going to get airflow, you're going to get diseases, and then maybe bugs popping up with them. So that all is a factor in where it's planted in the right place.
Makes sense.
Power lines. I have just watched somebody in a new planting plant a little whole row of trees, and if you look up, they're right under power lines. I mean, seriously?
What a mistake.
Could you not have planted them 10 or 20 feet, further back and gotten the same effect, but then they wouldn't be in the power lines.
Yeah, because we know what's going to happen when it starts to grow up into the power lines.
So just watch the power lines and the mature size of your trees. That's the important part about that. Pruning mistakes.
Yeah.
Now, I love to prune. One of my favorite horticulture practices is pruning.
You like pruning like
I
that?
love pruning. But some people prune at the wrong time of the year, and the biggest problem is the shrubs and trees that bloom.
Right. I would agree.
And the biggest way I can say the best rule is after it finishes blooming, prune it.
Prune it. Okay.
That way you're more apt to not get into the time of year that it's trying to set blooms for the next year. But a lot of times people will cut off the blooms for next year, but prune it as soon as it finishes blooming, you won't have that problem.
We get that question a lot at the Extension office. When should I prune this? Right. Yeah. That's a good point. Okay.
Yeah, like research your plants.
Research.
How about girdling? Oh my goodness, trees and branches. There's so many things that can girdle a tree. If you put it too close to a fence, if you've ever seen trees and plants growing into fences.
I have.
Even the plastic tags that identify the plants, the tree can't make them go away.
That's right.
They kind of include them in there, but that restricts the water and air movement around that, so you don't want that.
Okay.
And it's just not going to work very well.
Okay.
The other thing that girdles a tree is weed eating around it, or actually mowing and hitting the trunk of a tree. That can, every time you hit, you have a callus on your finger from writing, you know, you get a callus on certain parts of your finger. That's what happens when you're weed eating around the trunk of a tree. You don't see it, but there's a callus there, and it's affecting the water flow and uptake of the tree. And essentially, it girdles the tree.
All right. Wow. A weed eater blight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about staking trees
Staking
too tightly?
trees, which I've seen all around the landscape here.
You know, it's nice to have stake trees because, you know, I understand you don't want it to move and you don't want it to fall over because you've taken a lot of time, especially on large trees. And I agree, they should be staked if it's a large tree and they don't want it to blow over.
Okay.
But they shouldn't be taut. They should be loose.
Okay.
So that you want to see the tree in the wind be able to move just a little bit, because that's going to create, the tree is going to produce what they call reaction wood.
Okay, heard that.
And that will help the tree learn to stand up on its own.
Cool.
Because if you tie it tightly and don't let it move,
You restrict the movement.
it's never going to learn to have reaction wood to be able to stand up.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Heard that.
Scalping grass.
Scalping the grass. Uh-oh.
Yes, I mean, everybody has that one place that, you know, they keep going, it looks a little brown. Well, I scalped that little section. That's okay. Well, just fix it. Either raise it or lower it, whatever you need to do, and then you won't have that scalped place anymore.
Okay.
And it's usually the level of the soil that's affecting that.
And it will brown out, so yeah, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Okay. All
So
right.
that's another one common mistake. Knowing the difference between an annual and perennial. How many times do we get a question, is this an annual or is this a perennial? And, you know, the majority of plants end up being perennials because trees, shrubs, you know, all are perennials. They stay around all the time. And that's the difference between an annual and a perennial. An annual completes its entire life cycle in one growing season, and then it doesn't live anymore.
Right.
Except if in the tropics.
Yeah.
You know, when it gets to be warm outside, it doesn't freeze, and it's going to continue to live. But everywhere else, it will complete its season of living in 1 year, and then it will die. Perennials stay around year after year.
I like perennials. Okay.
Bulbs planting the right side up. I mean, you know, if you do make a mistake and plant one upside down, it will grow.
Okay, I always wondered that.
But it will take longer and take more energy to turn itself around because it will try to right itself.
Okay.
But it just watch, and usually
you can tell, right?
The point, and sometimes this is what people get confused with.
All right.
Sometimes bulbs are the stalk is starting to come out, not the roots, but the stalk.
Gotcha.
And they think that's a root.
Okay, I got you.
And so, you know, just try to look on the bottoms or around on the bulbs. And if you see a wider area that looks like there's small little holes and a circle around it, that usually is a key that it's going to be roots.
Okay.
So you put that side down and the other side up. But usually there's a point that, you know, there'll be some sheathing around the bulbs, and they'll come up to a little bit of a point, and that's the top to face up.
Okay.
The worst thing, now, everybody is guilty of this, myself included.
Include me in that as well.
Impulse buying. Not having the plan, not knowing what the plan is, just going out and say, oh, I really like this plant, and then they're going to come get it and plant it this is the problem. You know, you may not know a place to put it right away. So what do? You let it sit out.
Just sit, garage or outside.
Yeah, and then you forget to water it, or you water it too much. And if you're going to do a lot of impulse buying, I suggest to have an area that you would plant it in the ground. And so it'll be in the ground while you're trying to figure out where to put it.
All right. I like that though. I'll see if I can do that, but impulse buying. I think we're all guilty. If you're a plant person, you're guilty of that.
Definitely guilty of that, yes.
All right. Appreciate that, Ms. Jordan. Good stuff. Avoiding those landscape mistakes. Let's see if we can get better with that next time.
Yeah, myself included.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's late winter, and it's time to look at your trees and do some corrective pruning. Look for crossing branches like this one here that is rubbing up against this other branch, rubbing the bark off of it. So we want to eliminate that. We're also looking at internal branches that are coming into the plant. We'd rather them go out to the outside, so we'll eliminate those. And we'll look for water shoots, like this one that's growing right up through the tree, crossing all sorts of branches. And continue looking throughout the tree.
All right, here's our Q&A segment. Y'all ready?
We're ready.
These are great questions, all right? So here's the first viewer email. I have a 1-year-old peach tree and I want to cut it in the center because there's lots of new growth and small branches coming out the side. It is now dormant for the winter. When should I prune my peach tree and should I spray some of that black seal to prevent any rotting? And this is Mike. All right, Walt, so first question is, when should I prune my peach tree? Let's start with that one first. When's a good time to do that?
Here in the Memphis area, usually March would be a good time to prune your peach tree.
Okay.
Also, you want to make sure you cut out that central limb that's in the middle, because we want to train this tree where it grows up in like a bowl shape,
Right.
so that the sun can get in there and, you know, dry out the peaches to help you culturally. Now, as far as
The black seal.
black seal,
prevent rotting?
we've yet to find any research that really shows where that's beneficial.
Yeah.
But if it makes you feel good to do it, go right ahead and, you know, spray some of that on there. But it really doesn't do a lot of good.
Right. It's of no use, really, you know, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Black seal, I'm sure that's something they used to do, you know, back
Oh,
in
I'm
the
sure.
day. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm sure.
yes. Oh, you know, back in the day they used to paint them.
Right, right. They
you
sure
know,
did.
But since then they've discovered that tree will naturally, you know, form its own little callus or
Sure.
whatever over it, and it'll
Right.
be fine.
Yeah, because anytime that you're sealing wounds, you're actually sealing in moisture,
Yes.
right, which could
Yes.
decay that limb or that branch. So
And
you
this
gotta
is
think
just a
about that.
1-year-old tree.
1 year old, right.
And
Just
I
1 year
really
old.
like that he's pruning it from the very beginning,
Yeah.
getting it trained correctly.
Right.
That's going to pay big dividends down the road.
All right.
And following the fruit tree spray program
Yes, would be
will
good.
help too,
Yes, that will help.
with bugs and diseases.
Yeah, because as Mr. D would say, peaches, plums, and nectarines, you will need a spray schedule.
Yes.
All right. So there you have it, Mr. Mike. Thank you for the question. Here's our next viewer email. Last summer, I noticed these little worms inside my sunroom. The room is ground level, built on a concrete slab. When I touch them, they curl up. They have a hard outer skin. When they die, they have a strong smell. Why have I got them and how do I get rid of them? This is Jerry in Clinton, Tennessee. So when you touch them, they curl up, right? Hard outer skin. And they smell bad when they die.
Yeah.
How about that, Joel?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a little millipede.
That's a millipede.
sometimes.
Right.
But that means he has wet conditions.
Yes.
Yes.
Moist, wet conditions. Yeah.
So try to dry up the area if you possibly can. And then try to seal. I mean, can you seal off the area? I mean, they're on the ground, so
Yes.
can you put caulking at the edge of
Right. Good
wherever
point.
they're at to try to keep them out?
Right. That's you would have to look at that. And you could also spray something that contains beta-cyfluthrin or bifenthrin, as you know, I guess around the base or whatever on the outside. You know, that way
Yeah,
you know,
perimeter
that
barrier,
might keep
yeah.
them from
Sure.
coming in.
Okay.
But yes,
Yeah. So yeah, wet conditions, damp conditions.
Right.
We've had plenty of that.
yes,
Of course, they like mulch. Right.
yes.
If you have any vegetation that's out there in your garden and things like that, it's going to hide underneath that. Yeah. And you're going to have millipedes.
Yes.
But you know what I would do? Scoop them up, throw them back in the yard, right? Let the birds have them. Right? Let nature get them. All right?
Yes.
All right. There you go, Mr. Jerry. Appreciate that. Here's our next viewer email. I have blue crop blueberry. It has this reddish tint on all the branches. The branches coming off of it doesn't produce many berries and they don't ripen well. Since the entire bush looks like this, should I remove the bush and start over again, or will copper fungicide help? Thank you, and this is Craig. All right, Walt, so blue crop blueberry, and it has this little reddish tint on the stems. What do we think that is?
Yes, and in looking at that picture, I see cankers.
Yeah,
That's what I'm looking
I do
at.
too, stem canker.
Basically, you can use some of those copper type compounds to treat it. You know, I definitely do not want the person to throw the bush away or whatever. Don't pull it out, because I think it can be corrected with, you know, the proper spray.
Right. And something else I would do, I would prune it out.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I would
prune it out
definitely
there.
prune it out. I would do that, and next time I look for resistant varieties, because blue crop is known to have problems with stem cankers.
Yes.
Would you say about research?
Yeah, you have to do your
You
research.
gotta do your research, right?
Have to do your
Yeah,
research.
resistant varieties. Yeah, prune it out, don't throw it away. Anything else you like to add?
Yeah,
Joe?
well, if it's a wet area,
Ah.
maybe kind of dry it up a little
Right.
bit of some
Something to
kind.
consider, right? Because and cankers usually happen because of stress.
Right.
Yeah.
So it could be water stress, or guess what? It could be pH
That's true.
stress.
Yes, because blueberries like pH of around 4. So,
Yeah.
you know, soil test and see what your pH
Right.
is, and maybe
Oh,
that would
yes.
help.
Good
Yes,
point.
yes, they definitely love it to be acidic.
Right. Okay. So yeah, a couple of questions for you, Craig. Make sure you get your soil tested, because cankers happen because of stress. So it could be moisture, it could be pH, and some other factors. All right. So thank you for that question. So Walter, it's been fun. Thank you for being here. All right.
Thanks
All
for
right.
having us.
Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us. If you want to learn more about planting onions or other vegetables, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. We have hundreds of videos about all sorts of gardening topics. While you're there, ask us your gardening question. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.